Hello, this is Sim Smith. I'm creating this video for new simmers. So the plan here is to reduce the complexity of doing instrument flying rule. So what we'll do this by using tools, using automations, and taking shortcuts. Here is what you'll need for this tutorial. You'll need the simulator X11 with the latest patch, aircraft Zibo 737-800. It's free. Application called Pilot2ATC. This is a payware, and an optional plugin called Better Pushback. So again, to reiterate, this is intended for casual and new simmers. This not for serious simmers or real-world flight training. Here's the timeline. It's a long video. You can skip forward to part you're interested in, or if you're watching the video again. It's a very large video. It's very hard to create a video that is going to satisfy all the new simmers. This is just one step. Maybe it's too detailed, maybe it's not enough. I don't know, leave a comment. I can maybe create a follow-up. And also, the Pilot2ATC is not just an ATC software. It's an ATC, it's a moving map, it's a planner, it's even a co-pilot because it's setting all your radios and everything. This is why, even though it's a payware, I do recommend you getting it, because the amount of money you pay for it will just pay off. You know, we're trying to learn a lot of things a normal pilot would spend a lot of time studying. We're taking some shortcuts just for entertainment. So my goal here is, again, to encourage more casual simmers to pick up flight sim and not get intimidated by all the complexity. Start small and slowly grow more and more complex. Enjoy the fun. Okay, now let's go ahead and create a new flight. We'll choose the Zibo 737. We're gonna start, we'll have the engine running, so we don't have to do cold start. We're gonna go to Reagan National, and in X-plane you can choose the gate you want to start with. Let's select something middle of the airport. Now let's go with the weather. We'll select just something simple. You can select ceiling and visibility. Okay, that almost removes the weather. So nothing too crazy with the weather, and midday. And let's get this going. Okay, we are loaded it inside X-plane. This is Zibo 737. This is the best freeware aircraft with study level detail. Now let's switch over to Pilot2ATC to configure our flight plan. Okay, here in Pilot2ATC you'll need to fill in some items about the flight plan. So first choose IFR, then we have to choose a cruising altitude, and you can leave it as it is. However, we can see what are the flight plans in real world. So if you go to this website, there's an IFR route analyzer. You can put the airport and then find routes. It will show you the real routes that are being used by the pilots. And here we are interested in what the route they took and the altitude they used. Okay, now we'll add the waypoints. So the source airport is Reagan National, and then we'll put the destination JFK. And here it sends you a direct link, but there are airways. There are certain ways the aircraft has to go from one airport to another for many reasons. So we don't have to learn any charts and navigational map. Pilot2ATC will do it for us. So here we will choose the SID, that's the standard instrument departure. For this runway, these are all available. So we're going north, so we can pick, let's pick this. And it will fill everything in, the transition and the SID. And all you do is you click load, and this will load it to the flight plan. So once it's loaded, you'll see that it's no longer a straight line. Now it's following the standard departure, and we have to do the same thing with the arrival, standard arrival. So there are all these different ways you can get arrival point, and then you can choose the transition point. Click load, and there you go. It's looking more and more like a real flight plan. Last thing is needing is the approach, and the runway we will vector to arrow key fix. And there you go. This is your full flight plan. Now go ahead and export this. Very important to export this because you'll need to import this into the Zibo FMC. So if you don't export it, you'll also hand type it and all this. So this is another reason to use this tool, so that it's minimum amount of work you'll have to do. Interaction with Pilot2ATC is done through voice, and my call sign is SIM3.
Ronald Reagan, Washington,
Pilot2ATC is an external program.
Quebec.
Now we just connected to a simulator, so whatever happens in the simulator, it gets reflected here. And here you can see it has many types of it's a moving map, so you can have satellite, chart, and so on and so forth. Let's change the frequency to clearance delivery.
Altimeter 2992. Arriving runways 0133.
Click to change the frequency so it can take the voice command. Next step is to file this flight plan. Just click there and file it. You have to be connected to a simulator to do this. So it filed, it validated it. Let's take a look at the whole flight plan. We go out north, a little bit north, then keep coming to the east, along the shoreline, go in. Not much to do, except the green part is where it's top of descent, where we have to slow down. A few things you can see in here is the destination, the time of arrival, the distance, ground speed, and the cruising altitude. So to go back to what we have done is we have created the flight plan from Reagan National to JFK, and we're filing this with the ATC. Now let's go to Zibo. SIM3 is my call sign, so that's my voice identifier. SIM3 radio check.
3, you are loud and clear.
SIM3 ready to copy IFR clearance.
SIM3 is clear to Kilo Juliet Foxtrot Kilo. Fly the doctors and departure, with the Agar transition, then direct to Sierra India Echo, then as filed. Expect departure runway 01. Climb to 4,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 124.7 squawk 6216.
SIM3 is cleared to Kilo Juliet Foxtrot Kilo. Fly the DOCTR3 departure, with the Agar transition, then direct to Sierra India Echo, then as filed. Climb to 4,000 feet via the departure. Expect higher clearances 2 minutes after departure. Departure on 124.7 squawk 6216.
SIM3 read back correct. Altimeter 29994, contact ground on 121.7, wind ready to taxi.
SIM3 requesting to taxi.
SIM3 taxi to runway 01 via taxiways Kilo, Delta, Juliet, Charlie, hold short runway 04, and runway 01.
Taxi to runway 01 via taxiways Kilo, Delta, Juliet, Charlie, hold short runway 04, and runway 01 SIM3.
We're done configuring Pilot2ATC, and now we need to configure this FMC, the FMS system. So click clear, and click on route. Here enter the information, the starting airport. KDCA, and the destination airport is JFK. And the flight planning we have done on Pilot2ATC, we're going to bring it over here. That'll cut down a lot of work. I'll just put a flight number. This is completely optional. Just put that as by itself, SIM3. And now here is where we'll put the flight plan we exported in Pilot2ATC at the beginning. You just put the name without the extension, and see everything got loaded to the FMC. You can see all the legs. So go ahead and activate this. Click exec. You need to continue entering more information in. The weight, the reserve I put in 1, and the cost I put in 50, just to get by these screens. Now you need to put the cruising altitude, that if you remember was 19,000, so you can put 190. Here, remember this? You're almost there. Put in the N1 limit. That's the temperature. Don't need to fill the other things in. And in this page, you'll have to put in the flaps. Once you put in the flaps, based on the weight and everything, it will tell you the V1, rotate, and V2 speed for this journey. Now you're done entering all the basics. And before we forget, we chose the flap 5 degrees, so let's go ahead and put the flaps in so we don't forget. And you also want to set the pressurization system of the aircraft, so you need to put in there like 19,000. That's how high we're going. Otherwise people will run out of oxygen and it won't be fun. And turn on the bleed. That is all it's needed. And we can set the autopilot. You can put in the maximum altitude we'll be reaching. Turn on the flight director and auto throttle. Do not turn on the command. That's only when we're at air. This is not the exact procedure. I'm just doing it all in here so that I don't forget. And there is a little bit of cleanup we'll have to do at the legs. Go through all the legs. And you'll see some gibberish there. So that needs to be removed, otherwise the VNAV won't work. So click the top one, and then that will replace the second click. Yep. And then you'll have to. So with the latest version of Zibo, a lot of this thing is fixed. You have the right speed and the altitude. Let's go over the radios. So all these radios are being set by Pilot2ATC, so you don't have to do much except this transponder. You'll need to set it to the last. That's the TARA, And this is needed so that the TCAS will work. Basically, it's an anti-collision, so you'll be identified and you can identify nearby aircrafts on air. So again, that is usually set just before the Okay, so we're ready for pushback. You can simply use ground service and pushback. This is completely optional. I just use a plugin called Better Pushback. So in Better Pushback, it's kind of graphical, kind of tell where you want the aircraft to be, and the tow person would come in and push your aircraft for you.
Ground to cockpit, plan acknowledged. Call me through the menu when you are ready. Ground to cockpit, tow is driving up. So connected and bypass pin inserted. Release parking brake. Starting pushback.
By the way, here's the earlier when we were changing the flaps. That's extending it to 5 degrees.
Operation complete. Set parking brake.
Oops, towing is done.
Disconnecting tow. Stand by.
But during taxiing, you'll have to use this knob on my left hand. You see it's moving. That is the wheel tiller. It'll help you make sharp turns. Sim 3 requesting to cross runway 04.
Cleared to cross runway 83 at pilot discretion.
And don't be afraid to change the point of view. If this makes it easier for you to taxi, go for it. This is a sim. No one should tell somebody else how to play. The reason I'm saying that sometimes people see my video and they get very upset, like, why am I doing something like this? I really want to make flight sim very approachable to all sorts of simmers, not just the hardcore.
Sim3 contact tower on 119.1. Enjoy your afternoon.
Tower on 119.1 Sim3.
Sim3 ready for departure.
Sri ins Ares 359 at 7 knots cleared for takeoff. Runway 01.
Cleared for takeoff, runway 01 Sim3.
It's very nice that Pilot2ATC takes care of all the changing of the frequency and everything. There is a configuration in there, and that saves a lot of steps. So we're all set. Just matter of aligning this bird on the runway and go. This tiller below the tablet on the left side is very handy. The default 737 doesn't have it. Okay, we're all set. Since we spent all that time putting everything on the FMC, it'll read out loud when to rotate. So what we'll do is we'll speed up, rotate, fly a little bit more, gain a little bit of altitude, and then we're gonna turn on autopilot, and then it's just set it and forget it.
80 knots. V1 rotate.
Alright, time to rotate.
Positive rate.
Okay, let's take care of the gear. And let's
400. $1,000.
Sim3 climb and maintain 9,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 9,000 feet Sim3.
I'm bringing the flaps up. Now we can turn on the autopilot. Hit on command. LNAV and VNAV done. Now the flight plan we put in the FMC, that will be followed throughout. So LNAV is for the localizer. You can think of it more like along the
Sim3 contact Potomac DAPR tour on 124.7.
X-plane.
Have a good afternoon.
And then VNAV is the
Departure
vertical
on
profile.
124.7 Sim3. Departure Sim3 climbing to 9,000 feet.
Sim3 good afternoon. Radar contact.
I added this little map.
Sim 3 climb and maintain 15,000 feet.
Climb and maintain 15,000 feet Sim 3.
This map I just added, the good way, is just for our convenience. This is absolutely not needed, just so that you can kind of follow. It's another program like Pilot2ATC, almost does the same thing, has moving maps. It doesn't have voice recognition and many other things, but just I like to see where I'm going, kind of to have an overall idea. So as you see, the primary and the map, etc. It's very handy. So as you see, I'm not really flying the plane. Right now it's on autopilot, it's following the flight path. This is what I meant by automation. So many times people will be like, what is the point of all this? The point is you start with heavy automation, and if you want, you can slowly then remove some of the automations. So this will be on autopilot. We won't have to do much. It's a long stretch until that green point. That green point is called top of descent, TOD. That is where we have to decrease our maximum altitude, otherwise the VNAV won't kick in. So it's a long way to go.
Sim 3 climb and maintain flight level 190.
Climb and maintain flight level 190 Sim 3.
Check on the second panel here. You see the green? That is where we'll reach our maximum cruising altitude. So we're close. So going back to automation, that's the reality of the modern aviation. We have to fit in so many flights, so much movement, so we cannot be constrained by weather or traffic jam, and definitely safety. So all this flight planning, airways, autopilot, it all works in harmony to have the maximum efficiency.
Enjoy your afternoon.
Center on 132.55. Take care Sim 3. Center Sim 3 at flight level 190.
Sim 3 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So I will fast forward this video. I'll do time elapses and probably pause at the main points. So it'll be on auto cruising to near the destination. So one thing to show is that you don't have to fly in real time. You can see it's I'm going at twice the. I'm speeding up the time. So you can speed it up twice, 4 times, 8 times, 16 times. But do understand that if you make it more than 2 times, the simulator has a problem keeping up with all the calculations. So I've been time elapsing and we have reached near the top of descent point. So I will lower the simulation speed back to regular, and we'll have to reduce the altitude so that when the aircraft reaches the top of descent, VNAV will kick in to start descending.
Sim3 contact Washington Center on 124.77. Have a good afternoon.
Center on 124.77 Sim3.
So when you're about to hit the descent, make the altitude to like around 2,400 or 500. It wouldn't matter because by the time the aircraft reaches that altitude, we'll be at glide slope. And as you see, we hit the top of descent, VNAV kicked in, and the altitude is starting to descend fast. And here in the FMC, you can see as we're traveling through each leg, it's going down.
Sim3 contact New York Center on 118.9 or 7. Have a good one. Center on 118.9 or 7 Sim3. Center Sim3 descending to 2,000 feet.
Sim3 good afternoon. Radar contact. Altimeter 299er7.
Altimeter 299er7 Sim3.
It's all about descending and slowing down from here. And it's kind of in the FMC written at what speed, at what altitude, at each waypoint.
Sim3 altimeter 299er8 cleared for the ILS approach to runway 04 left at New York John F. Kennedy International contact approach on 126.8. Good afternoon.
Altimeter 299er8 cleared for the ILS approach to runway 04 left approach on 126.8 Sim3. Approach Sim3 descending to 2,000 feet.
Sim3 good afternoon. Radar contact.
So here what you'll do is you press M, bring up the in-game map, and go to the IFR low, click on the runway you want to land, and you'll be able to set all the radios for the ILS. In the multi-function display, you see that there is a green, the magenta line, and there's a green called
Sim3
decel.
slow to 250 knots or less.
So because
Wilco Sim3.
we're trying to decrease the altitude, it's picking up a lot of speed. So we are expected to go through like a radical shift in speed. So because you're going a little fast, I'm gonna employ the brakes. And that should help us slow down. See, it increased a lot from 240 to 271. We were trying to hit 2,000 feet.
Sim 3 expedite speed reduction to 250 knots.
And those are the speed brakes you can see. Yep, those are the speed brakes that should help us slow down the aircraft a bit.
Sim 3 altimeter 29908 at New York John F. Kennedy International Contact Tower on 123.9er. Enjoy.
Altimeter 29908 tower on 123.9er Sim 3.
So there'll be a lot of handoff process going on as I'm approaching the airport. So the ATC will be very
Tower
busy.
Sim 3 inbound for ILS approach runway 04 left.
Sim 3 good afternoon. Radar contact. Continue il to runway 04 left call when established on final.
Continue ILS to runway 04 left will call when established on final Sim 3.
Sim 3 expedite speed reduction to 250
So I'm gonna deploy the flaps to
Wilco Sim 3.
create more drag to slow it down.
Sim 3 expedite speed reduction to 250 knots.
Wilco
So
Sim 3.
this is, you need to know the rating of each of the flaps. I think I deployed a little too early. So the ideal place to deploy it is under the red mark over there on the speed. Otherwise you'll damage the flaps. But we'll catch up there. So as a beginner, it's always better to go slow and take your time than trying to go at a faster speed and not being able to slow down and then doing a miss approach. You can see the airport there. We're almost there. You can increase the zoom level to see more details on this MFT. Again, this is easy IFR because Pilot2ATC is doing most of the stuff, handing off to the other different towers, switching the towers for me, switching the frequency, guiding me if I'm going too fast, too slow, too high, too low. And the actual piloting is being done by the autopilot. It's following the plan. This is like a great way to learn the simulator before you can take out some of the automation and do hand flying. So we're near the airport now. We can now switch off. We can lock on the localizer and the glide slope. And that's why I clicked on the APP button over there. So deploy the landing gear because we have hit the glide slope. And normally here you can activate the auto landing. We'll try it. If it doesn't work, we'll just manually land it. So here you want to extend the flaps. I'm a little bit later, should be extending them a lot earlier. In the primary display, when it says one channel, you can keep both flight directors on and click both commands. That usually activates the auto landing. There you go. Let's see if it's gonna work for us. Nope, not working today. I think I may have misconfigured something, but that's fine. We'll just hand fly it in. So hand flying in means that still let the glide slope locking do its job of descending, and then we're localizer locked as well. So there's really nowhere else this aircraft will go but straight to the runway. And just
1,000.
I like
1,000
to
feet stabilized, Mr. Birch, altitude set.
I like to set the speed manually using my throttle. So what will happen is I will turn off autopilot around 100 feet and then just glide the aircraft in.
5 knots cleared to land runway 04 left.
Clear to land runway 04 left Sim 3.
This is what I talked about earlier. This is how you set the frequencies. Something I should have done a long time ago. So when I disengage the autopilot, I'll have to flare up, meaning I have to pull up on the stick a little bit to soften the landing, and at the same time reduce my throttle to 0.
300. 200. 100.
A little bit off the center, there you go, turning off.
50. 40.
A little bit flare.
1. 10.
Sim 3 exit runway when able.
And Pilot2ATC will guide you all the way to the gate.
80 knots.
And reverse thrust is applied, so it'll act as a brake. And once you are out of the runway, you would ask the ground to guide you to the gate. So here it is. You're almost gate to gate flying with IFR with very little knowledge. I'm one of those people who don't like to read manual. And I'm a simmer, I just want to have fun, I don't want to...
Contact Kennedy ground on 121.65 for taxi clearance.
Ground on 121.65 for taxi clearance. Sim 3.
Very nice. It transferred me to the ground automatically, Pilot2ATC. Sim 3 requesting taxi to the gate.
Sim 3 taxi to Gat Golf 187 via taxiways Golf, Alpha, Victor Victor, Sierra, Sierra Charlie, Romeo, Sierra Delta.
Taxi to gate Golf 187 via taxiways Golf, Alpha, Victor Victor, Sierra, Sierra Charlie, Romeo, Sierra Delta, Sim 3.